Si mejor quieren un roncito, me dicen. Nosotros estamos en todas partes. Estamos en todas partes.
Should I just sit with you? Like face wise, should I just sit with you? You know my word.
Check 1 2 check.
Yes. Take your mic first.
Check 1 2 check 1 2 check. Is that good? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's hers, right?
I'm just using it for a second. And
Yeah.
get out.
All right. No, it's okay. It's okay.
All right. Hello, and good evening. Kumbia, if you hear me, make some noise. Oh no, Kumbia, are you here? Make some noise. All right. I am Aaron Zerell Gregory, engagement specialist at Omaha Performing Arts, and we are excited to present you all with our very first Voices Amplified event of the season, a conversation with Sammy Figueroa. Yes, give him some love. And the wonderful songstress Alexis Arai. Give it up for her as well. All right, so we're going to be having a discussion on all things salsa and jazz. So please sit back, listen up. There will be time for a Q&A at the end if you have any questions for either of these two. And yeah, if you're streaming online on Facebook or YouTube, welcome from all of us at Omaha Performing Arts. And much shout out to Kumbia Bistro. We are here. If you're in the neighborhood, come join us for the conversation. Let's kick it off. Give it up for Sammy and Alexis.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Welcome to Voices Amplified, una mezcla de sabores. How are you guys doing tonight? Are we good? We'd like to welcome our Sammy here. Round of applause. Thank you so much for giving us the time to ask you questions and get into your life here a little bit.
Pleasure.
I told him later, if we have enough time, he's going to have to play percussion with the table or with glasses or something. So I guess I'm gonna start off by asking you how you started this music journey. What made you want to do what you're doing, what you're currently doing?
It's a long story. I don't know. I don't want to bore everybody here with hours of how I started, but I didn't start as a percussionist. I was a singer, and I was a vocalist with Bobby Valentin in Puerto Rico, which is a very famous salsa band. And I started singing because my father was a singer, and it's in my blood. But what happened was I started through my window. You know, my grandmother used to leave all the windows open, and we used to listen to jazz, Latin, Brazilian music. Everything used to come through that window. And I heard one artist that I fell in love with. His name was Cal Jader. And when I heard that, it changed my whole frame of mind. I wanted to be a percussionist, and I wanted to play. I gave up singing for a long time, and just recently, now after 40 years, I just recorded my new record, and I'm singing on my new album. And I mean, I had to go to therapy for a long time for that, because I was so insecure about not doing that, you know, and all of a sudden I'm singing. And so now this album comes out in February, and I'm really proud of it. It's a great album. But I really started very young. I started listening to all kinds of music. It wasn't just Latin music. I used to hear bebop, jazz, rock and roll, even punk music. I mean, I listened to it all, electronica, Italian music, Russian music. I think that we should listen to everything because music is everywhere. And we shouldn't limit ourselves to the same music all the time. Even classical music, I love classical music as well. So that's how I started, listening to everything.
Nice. This might be something that we'll ask you maybe later today, but are you open to singing a piece of a song in your new album or in general?
No.
No.
I'm not ready to sing tonight.
Okay.
But,
that was worth the shot. Okay, so do you know exactly at what age you started like performing or showed an interest or had an interest and passion for music in general?
Well, I used to like every kid, I used to play in hotels and play in small little venues with my friends, and we used to carry amplifiers and all that kind of stuff, and we sort of like, that was our rehearsal for our future. That's the way, I didn't see it that way, but that's what actually happened. And I kept on playing in hotels and venues until one day a band invited me to go to New York and play out there in a small club, and I never went back to Puerto Rico. I stayed in New York City, and I started playing everywhere, and everybody used to see me. And after 6, 7 years of that, people got used to seeing my playing, and they were calling me to do a lot of recording dates for many different artists, Diana Ross, Bette Midler, everybody, David Bowie. I started recording with all those people.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's great. So can you explain to us in the audience here, you know, we're talking about salsa and Latin jazz, but can you explain to us a little bit what is Latin jazz for those who don't really know what that type of genre of music is?
Well, you know, Latin jazz came from New York City. It back in the early 50s, Puerto Ricans and there were Cubans and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and all kinds of people living in New York City. And in the early 50s, we used to hear the big bands play, all the jazz big bands. So a guy named Tito Rodriguez created a band using jazz musicians and mixing it with rumba. And they added timbales and they added congas and bongos. And then the big band and Latin jazz sort of stemmed from that era, from Machito. They were all at the same place at the right time in New York City. Machito, Chico Farril, Mario Bausa, Tito Puente, Eddie Palmieri, all those guys came from that big band Latin. That's how Latin jazz actually started. But salsa is a different thing. Salsa, the word salsa means sauce, right? So there was a guy named Jerry Masucci who created Fania, a label that's very, very famous label. And he used to see the way the Latinos dance, right? With the women, and it was so sexy, he said, it's so saucy, the way they dance. They got so much sauce in them. And then Pacheco, the great flautist, said, hey, that's salsa. And then that's how the whole salsa world started. They created a whole salsa idiom in New York, and it spread all over the world. That's how it started.
So you hear that, everyone? We're going to dance salsa later. Is that okay? So did you ever go to school for any of your music training, or was this kind of something that you were naturally talented and born with?
No, I come from a family of musicians. So my father was a singer. My aunt was a singer. My uncles are all classical musicians. I went to school when I was very young, and I studied music, and I studied piano. I started writing and stuff like that, and then I started getting really into the reading of music. And that's what actually expanded my consciousness into what I know now.
Okay, so like I mentioned before, I was stalking you a little bit. Not to be weird, but I was, studying you, and I saw that your father was Charlie Figueroa, and I was listening to a song, Busco tu recuerdo, that you had also redone. Am I correct?
Yeah, that was a song. My father died when he was 32 years old. He died. He was a heavy alcoholic, and he died as a bohemian inside of a club. He liked to live in the clubs, and he lived this life the way he wanted to do it. I never got to meet him because I was very young at the time. So I didn't meet the guy, but they told me so many stories about him that after a while, I started studying my father's music. And then now, after 40 years, I sort of forgave all of that happened between us, and I dedicated an album to my father's music. And so we took all that music that he did back in the early 50s, and we turned it into Latin jazz. And we put vocals on it, and this is a new thing. That's how my whole thing started now. So now I have a new album coming out because of my father. Yeah.
And it's beautiful. If you guys haven't heard of what I researched online, if you look him up, you will see some videos that of his father. It's just absolutely beautiful. We have a question from the audience. Really, we're supposed to answer questions afterwards, but this is already on my questions, so we'll get there. Water break. Salud.
Salud.
To your waters. So like I said, I was stalking you a little bit, and I saw that you had an album called Memory of Water, and you're playing the hangpan, correct?
Yeah.
What inspired you to write that album?
That's an instrument that was given to me as a gift from Switzerland. A woman invented that instrument. She's a scientist, and she created with her husband that instrument, and they sent me a sample of it so that I could try it out and see what my thoughts were. And I fell in love with it, and I recorded a whole album for meditation. I did this album for people who meditate, who are driving, and beautiful areas, just beautiful music so people can feel the scenery. That's why I did it.
For those who don't know what that instrument is, can you give us a little bit of a definition of what that sounds like?
It's a round instrument made of metal. It's made of stainless steel, and it looks like a flying saucer, right? And it has these, you play it with your hand. That's why it's called a handpan. And it has different tonalities and different scales. And it's very hard to explain because you really got to see it and hear it. But if you ever get a chance, go on YouTube and put handpan, and you'll get to listen to this great instrument, handpan.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining that.
My pleasure.
Now we do have I'm going back to that question that we had from the audience. They want to know what your favorite album is, and
My favorite album?
Yes.
Oh my God. I have millions of albums that I love. I don't have one favorite album because I listen to all kinds of music. And they're all my favorite, but no, I don't think I have one favorite. I mean, I like Chaka Khan. I like Eddie Palmieri. I like oh my God, Miles Davis. I can go from one extreme to the other.
Is there a specific song that really, really gets to your heart?
A specific song that gets to my heart? Yeah, there is a guy who passed away. His name was Lyle Mays, and he used to play with Pat Metheny, and he wrote a song called "Coming Home," and I think that song it goes right through my soul every time I hear it. Yeah, "Coming Home."
Well, my favorite song of yours is
Mine?
Yes, from your album El Mago, and it's called Together.
Oh my God, yeah.
If you guys haven't heard that song,
Yeah.
we'll play it after commercials, during commercial break.
That was a composition by Hubert Laws. He played that with Mongo Santamaria in 1962. And when I was 14 years old, my grandmother gave me $10 to go see Mongo. And I went to see Mongo Santamaria live. I was sitting in the front row. and Mongo was smiling at me all the time, and he said, I'm going to play a song. He used to have an accent. I'm going to play a song for this little kid that's sitting right here. A beautiful boy. It's called Together. And he played that for me. And, and I swore that when I grew up and I had a band that I was going to do that tune again. And I did for him.
Round of applause for Sammy, you guys. Okay, so from your perspective, where do salsa and jazz meet in the middle, and where do they differ?
Could you say that again?
Yes. From your perspective, where do salsa and jazz meet in the middle, and where do they differ?
Well, we've got to remember the salsa is it's vocals, right? It's based on vocals, and it's based on rumba, and based on big band. You got all those combinations going on. And Latin jazz, 99% of it is instrumental. So jazz is more predominant. The Latin rhythm is still there in the clave, but there's no vocals. It's more instrumental. Salsa is more for ballroom, for dancing, for having fun, and the vocals play the great role of the salsa.
So where has your career in music taken you worldwide?
Where has it taken me? Oh, wow, from Japan to Europe to Africa, all over the world, everywhere.
Is there a specific place that you loved the most? You can say Nebraska if you want. It's okay.
You know something? That's kind of strange. I like Japan because the Japanese, I never seen so many clubs in my life in one place. Then Japan has about 29 salsa clubs in one town. 29. They have 57 jazz clubs. I never seen anything quite like it in my life. And they have R&B clubs all over the place. They have rock and roll clubs. And their salsa bands, they sing in Spanish with no accent. Now, when you talk to them and say hello, they don't know what the hell you're saying. But they can talk and sing. They can actually sing in Spanish, but they don't know what they're saying, but they can say it.
So after this, we're all moving to Japan? All right, I have someone here wanting to ask a question. Hun, I already told you questions are for later, but it's okay, I'll permit you.
Sí, yo hablo español. Yo puedo hablar en español. Ah, okay. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, it was a comment. Okay. I honestly, can you repeat your comment? I honestly didn't really hear you. Can you repeat your comment?
Orquesta de la Luz. Very famous. That's right. Her name is Nora. Nora was the greatest salsa. She was considered one of the great salsa singers in the world. And she didn't speak a word of Spanish. But now after now she speaks fluent Spanish. She learned it. After so many years, she learned it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so to answer her comment, she was speaking about a female, Nora, who lived in Japan, who didn't speak a lick of Spanish, but could sing fluently in Spanish. You would never know that she was from Japan. Oh, yeah. And now Sammy is commenting that she now learned how to speak, and now she is fluent in Spanish.
I mean, fluent, completely.
Yes. Okay, so can you talk about the importance and impact of jazz music in the Latin America community in the world?
Latin music in the jazz community. Well, Jelly Roll Morton said, without the Latin tinge, there is no thing, And he said that in the early 40s because all jazz from way back in the early 30s, from Louis Armstrong, had a Latin tinge. And at that time, Latin people were playing jazz. And a lot of people are not aware that there was a guy named Mauricio Duran in 1932 who was actually the guy that was Louis Armstrong's teacher. He was the one that taught Louis Armstrong how to play trumpet back in the early 30s and 20s. And he was from Puerto Rico, you know, and he mentions that in his autobiography, you know. So the Latin tinge has been around from way, way, way before my time, or a lot of people. I think from way back like early 20s, 30s, even when Dixieland was happening. In New Orleans, as you know, Zydeco music has clave. It's based on the clave from Cuba, Puerto Rico. That's New Orleans, the Caribbean. It all started there. Africa, the French, Africa, the Caribbean, Cuba, Puerto Rico, were all inside of New Orleans. And New Orleans had a great, great melting pot of salsa, Caribbean, and Zydeco music.
All right, well, let's talk innovation and moving music forward, with jazz being one of the most innovative genres of music. Now, what are your thoughts of jazz in today's modern world?
Well, there's a lot of young kids that are now emanating, you know, like they all do, the old jazz players. And it's a continuum, it's a continuation of Freddie Hubbard, Miles Davis, all the old guys, you know. You have to continue the process, you know. That's what happens in jazz. And it's the evolution of jazz. Now you got young kids now experimenting with new harmonics, new sounds. They're combining jazz now with world beat, you know, using rhythms from Brazil, using rhythms from Africa, using rhythms from Cuba, from Puerto Rico, even Italian instruments from Italy. And they're taking all those rhythms and creating a new jazz form. And it sounds fantastic, you know. So the evolution is, the process is already have changed, you know. It's a matter of what you like and what you hear and what timbre is good for your feeling, for your ears, you know.
Okay, so we all know that Sammy's performing tomorrow, correct? Is anybody going?
By the way, I'm going to be playing the music of Cal Tjader. I don't know if you've heard of Cal Tjader, but Cal Tjader was like the guy that in the 50s started the whole Latin jazz trend. Mongo Santamaria was his conga player, Willie Bobo, and I'm going to be emulating a lot of that music that Cal Tjader did in the early 60s and 50s, which never died, and it's still, people hear it now more than ever. So I'm going to be playing his music tomorrow. So I hope you like it.
Now I'm going to take the time to answer any questions from the audience. Please feel free to ask any question. Sammy is a fantastic, humble, sweet guy. He'll answer all your questions, right, Sammy? Do we have any questions in the audience? Oh, come on. Marcos. Round of applause for Marcos.
Right there. Yeah.
So my question is, I love, you know, blues music and jazz. You know, as I travel the United States, I see all these clubs, but I've also noticed as I travel, if I go to New Orleans or some of the ones that really have a lot of music and jazz and all that stuff, but I've also noticed sometimes it's hard for me to find it. What do you see? Do you see the music? Is it expanding and growing, or do you see that it's slowly dissipating? Because sometimes
because people love tradition, and they like to hear the music the same way it was played then. But the music is moving in a different movement now.
And then do you feel that social media has helped that growth, right?
Absolutely, no question about it. And because of social media and the way the social media, with Instagram and everything going on, and Twitter, it has taken down everything,
right?
You know,
Yeah,
because the young kids are mixing it with a whole lot of other different things.
That's great.
It's not appealing to the ear to the older people who like to hear the tradition,
Right.
but it's you know, sound moves. It keeps on changing, evolving, you know, and we can't do nothing about that because we human beings have to evolve, you know. I mean, you know, and if you're willing to change with it, then you're going to create something extremely beautiful.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's the great thing about music, the evolution of it. It continues to grow. You can't lock it in a box, right? It's what's just in the heart. So, well, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, you all. Don't forget to come ask us a question. This is an opportune time to speak with Sammy. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure it doesn't get tied up on the O. It's the tape. Okay, so I'll bring it right up. There you go. Yeah, that's as far as it goes.
Oh, okay. Can I ask? Can you ask in Spanish? In Spanish. Okay. Es muy interesante lo que dices con respecto a que la música va cambiando.
Claro.
¿Cómo ves tú en el futuro el Latin Jazz? ¿Crees que va a desaparecer en algún momento?
Mira. Is it okay that I speak Spanish to this young lady? Or you want me to answer in English? Listen, it's called evolution. You know what I mean? It's changing. It is changing right now. There are new kids doing different things with Latin jazz, right? Because what they're doing is that they're expanding it using all different types of rhythms from different parts of the world and putting it into Latin jazz. You know, the clave is still there. The basics, la rumba is still there, the clave, but they're adding different harmonics, right? And different rhythmical aspects from different countries. And it fits because all rhythms fit if you know how to do it. So whether it's appealing to you or to anybody, it might be, but it might not be appealing to it might not be for everyone. That's what I'm saying. I like to move where everything moves. I like to evolve with everything going on because that's the beauty of music, that it never stops, you know?
Another question. Do you prefer old music, like Latin jazz, or that new music, like is the evolution that you mentioned? What do you prefer?
Which one do I like?
Yes.
I like them both. I like them both.
Okay.
I like the old style. I like the old style. It's in my heart. But I like what some of the new kids are doing. I love it. I love it.
Do you like reggaeton?
There's a guy named Munir Hossan. Munir Hassan. Hossn. Hassan. It's Arabic. It's Arabic, yeah. And Munir is from Brazil. His father's from Arabia. And he's creating a whole new type of music using Yoruba, Bata, using all the religious drums, and he's mixing it with candombe, electronica, some rap, and it's incredible. And you know what? And what I like about it is that it doesn't sound like mush, you know, because you could do all that kind of stuff and it'll sound like horrible. But he knows how to put the right doses in the right place so that everything sounds beautiful. So if you get a chance, listen to Munir Hassan and check him out. He's a virtuosic bass player, virtuosic guitar player, virtuosic percussionist, singer, composer. He's the future, you know, of Latin music. Munir Hassan, Hossn. Hassan. Well, I just had Munir play on my record, and he arranged one of my tunes for my new album. So I had to bring him in.
So to answer your question, jazz will never die. Latin jazz will never die. Am I right?
No,
Can I
yeah.
get an amen?
Jazz will remain for forever, you know. Jazz is, everything is jazz. Look, I'm sitting here, this is jazz. Looking at those empanadas, that's jazz. You know, talking to you guys is jazz. Talking to this beautiful lady is jazz. That's all jazz.
So, question about salsa. We're going to salsa now because we have to
salsa.
involve salsa here.
Yeah.
Do you like dancing salsa?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Now, is there times where you guys will play a little bit of both? Because I know I've listened to some of your albums, and it's more in the Latin jazz side of things.
It's more in the Latin salsa, sort of Latin jazz salsa without the vocals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if one of our ladies out here would like to take you dancing here in a little bit later, would you tell them yes?
Absolutely.
All right, ladies, you heard that. He's ready to dance.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, salsa is what makes the whole body move. I mean, it rejuvenates your organs. You know, it regenerates the soul. You know what I mean? If you can't move to salsa, then you're dead. Absolutely.
We have another question from the audience.
What's that? You know, there's a lot of musicians that don't know how to dance, which is kind of embarrassing. But I have a lot of my friends that can't dance for shit. I mean, you put them on a floor, and they're so fucked up. It's incredible. But it's something. I dance salsa because I grew up dancing it since I was a child. So this is something. And if you know clave, you know the clave, which is, you know, then you know how to dance. Then you know how to move. Because without clave, there is no movement, right? So you need, you know. But I think that dancing is one of the most important things to learn. If you're going to hear music, you're going to hear salsa, learn to dance, because that's going to expand your awareness of what's going inside the nucleus of the salsa. You're not going to listen to it superficially. You're going to go inside of it. You know, it's like a surgeon, you know, a lot of doctors graduate from school, but they don't have any experience in the operating room. You know, they don't know anything about the inside of the physiological. So, yeah, dancing is important. It's important. To me, it is. Yeah.
All right, so Zumba class here in about an hour. Sammy's going to lead us.
All right. So I have a question for Alexis. Yes. So knowing that you have your own group, when did you fall in love with salsa? Either salsa music, salsa dancing, and how has it shaped your career as an artist today?
Well, I didn't know this interview was me too, but if you want to talk about me, I actually was talking with Sammy earlier. We were talking about, you know, what we do in music, and I actually started singing at the age of 8 years old in a mariachi band. My parents are Mexican, so I'm Mexican American. And I actually didn't learn about salsa until maybe a couple years ago, maybe a little bit before the pandemic. I always thought I could dance, but I really could not, until I started going social dancing. And we have our salsa community dance club back there. We have some faces from salsa. Yeah, so that table back there, they all go to salsa dancing. And every Sunday they would have free lessons and then social dancing afterwards, and they still continue to have that. And one day I put on my vision board, I want to learn how to dance. And I learned and mastered how to dance salsa, and I created my own band that also plays salsa, and it's an amazing time. So to answer your question. Yes. Any questions from the audience for Sammy? Don't be shy. All right, well, I'm going to ask a question since nobody's asking any questions. Think about it back there, guys. Think about what the questions you want to ask. So, what was a milestone in your life? What is something that you remember so dearly that made an impact in your life, whether it was a performance, an event in your life?
What changed? For me, the biggest thing that ever happened to me was playing with Miles Davis. That changed my life, because I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would play with such an illustrious. I mean, this is a guy I used to read the liner notes of his records, you know, like a little boy, you know, and dream about Miles Davis, let alone play with him. I never thought. So that to me, I think, was a moment in my life where it changed everything. Miles Davis.
Can you, I know you had mentioned a couple of artists that you had the privilege to perform with. Can you tell us a little bit more of other artists that you had the
I played with David Bowie, and I worked with David for a long time. I did 3 of his albums, and I love playing with him because he was such a brilliant, intellectual artiste. He was a designer, architect, musician. He was pure art form. And when you're surrounded by somebody like that, you get to learn so much from such a high spirit. So David was Miles was the other one. Oh my God, Michelle Camilo, Eddie Palmieri. When I joined the band, it was an incredible experience. Lena Horne, who I love very much, she was a good friend of mine, and she sort of changed my life with her wisdom and her beauty and her, you know. I say Lena Horne is one of my favorites of all time. She's the girl of, there's no woman like that. There'll never be a woman like that in life, I tell you. She was quite a woman.
Okay, so other than music, we're going to put music aside. Is there any hobbies that you enjoy doing, throughout the day, whether it's a sport, whether it's, do you...
I love music.
Music? Nothing else?
I love all of it. I'm a romantic guy about all of the arts.
No golf, no sports, nothing?
Oh, I love sports, absolutely.
But music all the way, huh?
Oh, I love basketball, baseball, all that.
Music
Yeah.
is your hobby, your passion, your job, your love, everything. So.
Yeah, I'm passionate about music, but I'm also passionate about science. I'm passionate about new medicines, alternative medicines, and I'm also passionate about animals, the protection of animals, and also the protection of children. I belong to a society that helps young kids after school programs, and we teach these little kids that come from families that are pretty battered, and we teach them art, acting, music, how to be, characters, everything, philosophy, everything that has to do with arts, we teach them, and we help them to grow a better life, yeah.
What is the legacy that Sammy wants to leave behind?
Me, something, I don't know, I guess, I love what I do right now. And for me, it's everything that you do right now is what matters most. When you're gone, you're gone. If people could take that example and sort of fit it in their life to do great behavior. One of the great things in music is to be responsible. Stay away from drugs and stay away from all that and really create character. Creating character to me is the most important thing because it advances the soul to a much higher consciousness, and that's where I'm going. I want to do, yeah.
Can you explain a little bit to us what you're going to give us tomorrow at the show? I know you had mentioned that you were going to be singing a couple of songs by an artist. I can't remember what his name was. Can you remind me what you were going to play tomorrow?
Oh, we're going to do a bunch of Cal Jader music and Mongo from the old albums that Cal Jader did live when he was alive. And in California and all that, and Cuban Fantasy, Afro Blue, and all that, those cool tunes. The Continental, and we're going to do all those tunes again. So it's going to be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Question from an artist to an artist. When you're performing, what goes through your mind? What are you thinking about?
I have no clue.
He's right.
I have no clue. When I'm playing, I'm playing. I'm totally in it, and it's an experience that happens only at the moment. So it's very hard to delineate what happens after that. I know that at the moment, I live the moment, and when I play, I live that moment. Yeah.
I know it was a very broad question. I just thought I'd ask because sometimes I think about what I'm eating afterwards. So
Yeah, I have no.
I figured I'd ask you.
I like surprises.
I see. So is there a specific food? Like, what's your favorite food?
I don't like to plan anything. I just do it.
Yeah. Well, females' brains work differently. So, was there any more questions for the audience? Please raise your hand. Yes, come up here, please. Come up here. Round of applause.
Okay. Come on up here and hang out.
Yes, we don't
Let's
bite.
hang.
We
Come
don't
on.
bite.
We're hanging out.
This is the
Dale.
chair. This is the chair where you.
Dale, dale. Mira. Háblame en español, papito. ¿Cómo?
¿Usted conoció a Celia Cruz?
Claro que sí, muy bien.
¿Puede contar un poquito de sobre
Of
ella?
Celia? Celia Cruz was a very eccentric woman, you know, who had no fear, you know, she was fearless. She was like the Latin Billie Holiday, but without the heroin, you know. And and she was as strong as Billie because she had her own convictions and she wouldn't take any bullshit from anybody. I'll tell you that. And she was a savvy businesswoman too. And she knew everything about business, about numbers, about accountability. You know, she was just a genius. And as a singer, she was probably one of the greatest singers that Cuba ever had, you know. Now you have Aimé Nubiola, who is following on the footsteps of Celia Cruz, and Aimé is now the new hot singer that's all over the United States right now. But Celia was a very special soul. Era una persona que tenía una habilidad incomparable. Como Celia Cruz, no va a haber más nadie. There will be no other like Celia Cruz, just one, you know. That
Muy
was
bien,
it.
gracias. Y una segunda pregunta, entonces, como yo a veces escucho que la salsa es, del sur y todo eso, entonces, o sea, mi pregunta es, ¿dónde nació la salsa?
Salsa nació en New York. Jerry Masucci era un italiano mafioso que amaba la música latina, pero en aquel tiempo no había nombre. La gente bailaba, gozaban. Y él un día dijo, cuando vio a la mujer bailar, oye, mira cómo baila esa mujer, tiene como salsa dentro del cuerpo. Y Pacheco, el flautista, dijo, salsa. Y ahí empezó la salsa. Así
Entonces nació en Nueva York la salsa.
New York, it was born in New York City.
¿Cómo en qué año sería eso?
1956.
1950.
56.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Long time ago.
Very long time. Muchas
Yes.
gracias.
When cows had license plate.
Round of applause for our contestant. Is there any more questions from the audience? Yes, come up, dear.
Puedo preguntar en español. Spanish is fine.
Como tú quieras.
¿Qué piensas de la nueva música así como Bad Bunny y esa nueva música que ha salido?
¿Qué cosas nuevas salido?
Sí, no, ¿qué piensa usted de esa música?
Con la música nueva.
Sí, ajá.
Listen, te lo voy a explicar en inglés.
Ajá, ajá.
Okay. It's okay? Well, listen, it's like anything in life, right? You either like it or you don't like it. That's why we humans have taste, right? You don't have to listen to something you don't like. But I'm not crazy about some of the new salsa that's coming out now. Not a lot of it because they don't rely on improvisation anymore. See, in the regular salsa, the guy would sing and he would create stories. He would make them up, like a rapper does. You know, like a rapper can create stories, beautiful stories, and it just comes out of them like that. And I think that's genius. What rappers do is brilliant. People don't understand that they're telling the stories of the hood, of what happened in the hood, what happened with their families, you know, with all of that, you know. And salsa, the improvisation of salsa is the same way. They would improvise, and the new ones The new guys, they don't know anything about improvising, you know? All they do is sing, and it's okay. They have fantastic voices, but they have no clue about improvisation. Nothing at all. So for me, and this is just my taste, I go for the improvisation and the guys that sing the salsa. And there's a couple of young guys out there right now that are brilliant, and they do that. They improvise like the old guys, and they sing Luis Borges. There's a guy named Luis Borges from Venezuela, Venezolano, who is one of the great salsa singers, and he improvises incredibly. And there's a few of them that are out there now, but some of them don't. They just don't have that ability, you know.
I grew up with salsa and merengue,
And merengue.
and I think we need that back.
Yeah, you need that back.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I agree with you 100%. Yes, absolutely. Me too. I need it too. I'm hungry for that as well. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Today's her birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
We'll sing happy birthday for you later. Somebody buy her a birthday drink. So she asked him, what does he think about the new generation music like Bad Bunny? And well, you heard what he said. And so, yeah, to answer your question, Bad Bunny is overrated. Sorry about that. Okay. My opinion. I don't like that. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we're going to wrap this up. We want to give a huge thank you. Did you have a question? Okay. We want to give a huge thank you to Sammy, and we're going to see you tomorrow at the Holland Center, October 14th. What time? At 7:30. You can still get your tickets at the Holland Center website. And please join us. It's going to be absolutely amazing. You can't miss the show, you guys. Tell your family and your friends. I'm going to be there. I'm bringing +5. So we can't wait to have you there. Sammy, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
All right, everybody. First of all, thank you all. Give it up for them one more time. Sammy and Alexis, give it up. Thank you all again for joining us for our first Voices Amplified event of the season. We are excited to be elevating Latino voices this season, so please come out to all of our events. On every table, we have a flyer for everything coming up. Next month, we have La Fuerza de la Moda, which is the power of fashion. It is going to be a red carpet style showcase of emerging Latino and Latinx artists in the city. It is going to be at the Fashion Arts Collective, located downtown. It'll be November 10th, which is a Thursday at 8:15. Come dressed to impress, because I will be. My suit is in my closet already. And yes, it is a free event. So please come out and join us for every event that we're having. The calendar for the other events are on the back. Also, as you leave, we have evaluations. Just give us some feedback on what you think. If you want to see more of this, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us at Omaha Performing Arts, and you all have a great night. Take care.